Okay.
Ich habe deshalb es abgelehnt, jemals vor dieses Volk hinzutreten und billige Versprechungen.
Colin, who was that?
Hitler.
That's correct. That was Adolf Hitler, 1939, before the full outbreak of World War II. But I don't want to talk about Hitler today. We've discussed him enough in all the classes we've taken throughout our time here, high school, whatever. I want to talk to you about the man behind the curtain, as it were. The puppeteer with Hitler and Germany on his marionette strings through his masterful manipulation of information. I am talking about the Minister of Fear, as we affectionately called him in our media, Joseph Gebels. Now, how do we get to that man? How do we get to the point where we have a man who's Hitler's adjutant, behind the scenes, pretty much controlling Hitler and his agenda, and controlling the Nazi Party himself through his use of information? Well, to do that, first I need to give you some background on his childhood, how he turned into radicalism of the Nazi Party, and then a few key events throughout his life that really show his opportunistic nature to seize power when he could while remaining behind the scenes so he wouldn't be kind of the focal point of resistance or whatever. And when he would eventually be given that position, he would take the easy way out and end his life. So Joseph Goebbels was born to a strict Catholic family, a working class family in Germany's Rhineland in October of 1897. So the Rhineland was not a very rich area except for the factory owners. So he grew up relatively poverty-stricken, had to work for a lot of things in his life, and he resented this immensely. By the time World War I comes around, he is rejected from service from the German military because he has a physical deformity in one of his feet, so they do not allow him to serve. This causes a lot of resentment towards the upper elite that ran the country at the time, and eventually would also help grow his anti-Semitism towards the Jewish people who owned a lot of the money, specifically the factories that his father and himself had to work in. And because of this, he turns to radicalism. It gives him an ability to advance himself beyond what any normal person from the Rhineland was able to achieve. So he turns to the Nazi Party. Now we flash forward from when he initially joins in 1920 to a massive conference of the Nazi Party in 1926 in Hanover, Germany, where he co-authored a program that called for the expulsion of the petty bourgeois Adolf Hitler from the National Socialist Party. Pretty strict contrast from the man who would one day become Hitler's second in command. Now, we don't have a lot of documents that show what happened at this conference, what was said, but at the end of it, Goebbels is Hitler's most avid supporter in the Nazi Party. And as a reward from this, because Hitler also gained pretty prominent power in the Nazi Party after this conference, he was given control of Berlin, of the Nazi Party, in which he eventually gives Hitler, by the time Hitler runs for the chancellery, a near 100% approval rating by the Berlin people and almost 100% voting percentage. This is where we first see Goebbels taking use of his ability to manipulate information through all his masterful use of propaganda, posters, the movies that he would eventually direct and oversee as the Minister of Propaganda. He was able to convince everyone of the Nazi Party being able to save Germany from all its troubles, and that Hitler was the ultimate savior for Germany. Now we flash forward to the Night of the Long Knives. Now, most of us know who the SS are, correct? They are the embodiment of evil of the Nazi Party, the militarized wing. But they were very junior to the SA until Goebbels was able to take advantage of information. Goebbels and Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, did not like the SA's commander, Ernst Röhm. So he gave information to Hitler and his generals that Röhm was a homosexual, which to the Nazis is almost egregious as being Jewish. By using this manipulation of information, he is able to convince Hitler to order the SS to eliminate the SA. In the Night of the Long Knives, roughly 150 to 200 SA officers were imprisoned, killed, or hung by SS officers. And this effectively eliminates the SA from the Nazi Party, and the SS then takes over and assumes their rightful mantle of being the militarized wing of the party. By being able to basically just lie to Hitler, but to do it so effectively, he now has Hitler's ear. Whatever Goebbels is going to tell him is whatever Hitler's going to believe. And since it's in the guise of Hitler's mantle of anti-Semitism and what the Nazi Party should do, it effectively keeps him out of the limelight, as it were. He doesn't become the focus of the true anti-Semitic movement of the Nazi Party. But when he actually is forced into that limelight in anything other than the movies that he would direct for the Nazi Party, he folds. Because in May of 1945, we all know, Hitler commits suicide in his bunker, and of the myriad of orders he gives for the SS to continue the war, for Germany to keep fighting, he puts Joseph Gebels in charge. He is the new chancellor for Germany. And instead of taking that mantle and taking that power, he orders an SS doctor to lethally inject all 8 of his children. He has an SS orderly shoot him and his wife in the head. And eventually the Russian army comes across them in their mansion. So, to go over what we've been talking about today, I was hoping to bring to light the true evil that this man really was, and that he was the driving force of the Nazi Party, because he was able to control information. He could convince all the German public to join the Hitler Youth, the SS, the Gestapo, etc. He was able to manipulate information to remove political dissidents and rivals that he just didn't care for. But when it actually came time to take charge himself, he ultimately fails and runs away from it. And if there's a quote that I could leave you, it is something that is attributed to him right before his suicide. It's, "We shall go down in history as the greatest statesmen of all time, or as the greatest criminals." Thank you.